Okay, so we're going to review some factoring here. We've kind of looked at it some, doing with multiplication, and all this really is doing when we talk about GCF, greatest common factor, it's kind of like doing the distributive property backwards, or the way we think of it. So when you look for GCF, you can look for GCF with variables as well as numbers. So we're going to start with this first one. It says factor the common factor out of each expression and write in its factored form. Okay, so here there are no common variables. We just have two numbers, 16 and 2. And we say, okay, what's the biggest thing that'll go into both? Well, that is a 2. That's our GCF. So I write what's left. So I think about doing distributive property backwards now. And I say 2 times what is 16? 8. The K is still there. And then I say 2 times what is 2? 1. That's its factored form. Okay, let's go to the next one. Here we have common variables. They both have B. Now, they both have a B. However, this one only has 1 to give me. So the most I can take out is a single B. Even though the first one has 2, I can't take 2 out of the second one. I also have to look at the numbers, 15 and 25. What's the biggest thing that'll go into 15 and 25? Well, it's 5. So I take all that out, then I write what's left, and then I do reverse distributive. 5 times what's 15? 3. I took 1B out, so if I took 1B out, that still leaves a B, because I had 2 to begin with in that first term. Plus, 5 times what is 25? 5. I took the 1B out right here. That B is out right here. So that is its factored form. So again, one way to check this is always go back and do distributive property over. B times B gives me B squared. 5 times 3 gives me 15. 5 times 5 is 25. B gives me the single B there. Okay, let's keep going. Here, and this varies book to book, but if this first term here is a negative, a lot of times they take a negative out, and that's what we're going to do here. First, I'm going to look at my variables. They both have B's. How many can I take out? I can take out 6. This one has 6 to give me. This one has 8. So there's going to be some left here, but none when I take this out. So I can take out 6 B's. What's the biggest thing that'll go into 40 and 50? That would be 10. So I can take a 10 out. Now I write what's left. 10 times, oh yeah, and we said we were going to take a negative out, right? So this is actually a negative 10. Now, negative 10 times 4 gives me negative 40. I took 6 B's out, so there's no B's left in that first term. Okay? I took a negative 10 out. Negative times a negative. So actually, this sign changes now to a negative 5. Because negative times negative is positive. So make sure you remember that. Negative times negative is positive. That's if you take a negative out. If you didn't take a negative out, then it'd look a little different. I took 6 B's out. How many did I have? 8. 8 minus 6 is 2, so that leaves 2 B's. So hopefully you're kind of following this now, making a little bit more sense. Let's do the next one. No common variables, but they both have a 2. So I'm going to take the 2 out. What's that leave? Well, that just leaves p to the second plus 2 times 1 is 2. Now, if you wanted to put a 1 right here, you could do that. I'm not going to count it wrong. However, just remember on an online worksheet, online homework and stuff, they may count it wrong if you put that 1. It's assumed to be there anyway. All right, next one, they both have an A. This one only has 1 to give me. So that's all I can take out is 1A. Again, you don't have to put that 1 there. 7, 14, biggest thing that'll go into both is 7. So that's going to leave 7 times 1. Again, you don't have to put that 1. I took out 1A. That leaves 3 A's. 7 times 2 is 14. Already took the 1A out. So that's doing GCF. Basic principle, you got to know your multiplication facts to kind of do this. And we've kind of already hinted on that ahead of time. All right, what about when you have 4 terms? When you have 4 terms, all you do here is you group them by 2's and you do GCF, what we just did above. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a little bit more space here. So I'm going to erase the one underneath here, just so I get a little bit more room, and then I'll come back and do it. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to group the first two. I'm going to group the second two. When I group the first two, I'll look. They both have k's. So I take out a k squared because I can take 2 out. Then I'll look at the numbers. 120 and 30, biggest thing I can take out is 30. What's that going to leave? 30 times 4. I took 2 k's out. That leaves a k. 30 times 1. Okay. Now, in the previous section, we had one that started with a negative, and I said I took a negative out. This is why I did that, because whenever you look right here and you've got this group and that has a negative, always take a negative out. Always. Okay. So I know I'm going to take out a negative. I don't have a common variable, but I do have numbers, 140 and 35. So the biggest thing that'll go into both, you may have to use your calculator, but hopefully starting to do multiplication, you know that's 35. So what does that leave? Okay, negative times a positive would give me a negative, so this should be, I think it's 4. And then I didn't take a k out. I took the negative out. So since I took the negative out, my sign here now becomes a positive because I took this negative out. So that becomes 4k 35 times 1. Now, this is what should happen every time. These two groups should be the same. If they're not, then you messed up somewhere. So then what you do is you take that group and you bring it down. Then you take what you took out of each and you group that together in parentheses. So 30k squared minus 35. Okay. Now, one other thing you can do here, and something that you need to pay attention to, is also look at other GCFs. This still has a GCF in it, and I could have done this at the beginning, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So the 4k plus 1 comes down, but there's something that'll go into both of those, and that is a 5. 5 goes into 36. 5 goes into 35, 7. So this is actually its complete factored form. And what you'll see here is GCF written at the front. 5, 4k plus 1, 6k squared minus 7. So I did that one without taking the GCF out at first, and it works. But problem number 7, I am going to start, so hopefully you've got this copied down. I'll give you another second here. Okay. Okay, problem number 7, I'm going to start with taking a GCF out. Okay, now, what is that GCF? Well, this is why you need to know your multiplication facts here. I know it has a GCF, not because they have common variables, but if I look at every term, they're all even numbers. So I got to think about what's the biggest thing that will go into all of those numbers. And that number is 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 8 out. If I pull 8 out, I go, again, kind of reverse distributive property. 8 times 35. 8 times 40. 8 times 28. And then 8 times 32. Now, I didn't take out an n because the last term here, the 256, did not have a common variable, but 8 went into all these numbers, and this is what's left. Now, what happens is that GCF just stays in a problem. We just keep bringing it down. But what I'm going to do up here now is I'm going to regroup. I'm going to group the first two, and then I'm going to group the second two, and now I'm going to do what I've done up at the top. So what I do here is I take out this first group. They both have an n. I can take out 2 n's. Let me do that in blue since I put it in blue. Sorry about that. Take out 2 n's. What'll go into 35 and 40? 5 will. So that leaves 5 times 7. Gives me 35. N squared, that leaves an n. 5 times 8 is 40, and I took both the n's out. Second group, I look at my sign. That's a positive. What will go into 28 and 32? Let's see, 4 will. So what's that leave? 4 times 7 gives me 28. And then 4 times 8 gives me 32. Again, these have to be the same. So that group comes down. And then I'm going to take what I took out and group all of it together. So 5n squared plus 4. Now that's completely factored. So the only difference is here I took the GCF out at the beginning, whereas in number 6, I took it out after I'd factored the groups and looked for it. Again, same thing in different ways. All right, one more problem, grouping here. Number 8. So again, I'm going to look for GCF here at the beginning. I am. This is personally how I do it. But there's not one here. And the reason is because 3 is an odd number. And the only thing that'll go into 3 is 3. Not just because it's odd, but because it's a prime. And 3 will not go into 4 or 32. So there's no GCF here. So I'm going to just do my groups. So I group the first 2. Group the second 2. So in the first 2, they both have x's. So I can take out 2 of them. That's going to leave still the 3, because 3 and 4, there's no common factor but 1. That still leaves an x. In the second group, it just leaves a 4. Okay, next one. Pay attention to your sign again. And take out, okay, what'll go into 24 and 32? 8. Okay, what's that leave? 8 times 3. Okay, now it's positive again because I took the negative out. And the next one, it was positive, I took a negative out. So that's going to make this a negative because a negative times a negative is a positive, which is what I had up here. 8 times 4. Now, again, that should happen because these should always be the same. So I bring that group down, 3x minus 4. Then I take what I took out and group it together, x squared minus 8. Not a whole lot of grouping, factoring, where you have 4 terms. That's the only time you do it, when you have 4 terms or more. But it may be something I can show you later and how you could use it too.